Hello Internet, and today's video is going to be another book opinion. This video is in which I tell you my opinion on a book, and today's book is going to be The 5 Stages of Andrew Bradley by Sean David Hutcherson. This was a fantastic book, first off. Second off, Sean David Hutcherson in his books tends to connect them. They all exist in the same universe. Sort of like how Stephen King books loosely exist in the same universe. Sean David Hutcherson books do as well. When I do more book opinions about his books, I will talk about those connections as well. This book, again, is connected to the universe in a less impactful way than some of his other books, but I'm just going to mention it and I'll comment more on that later. So, The 5 Stages of Andrew Bradley deals with this kid, Andrew, and a very tragic thing happened into his life. His family died in a car accident and he survived, and he feels really guilty and horrible about it, and it takes place in this hospital. So he is currently in this hospital. He's working in the cafeteria. He's dealing with the fact that his whole family is dead, yet somehow he's alive. And he also meets other characters in this hospital. So if hospitals and the things that happen in hospitals and the people who exist in hospitals in any way are triggering to you, then I suggest you go into this book very aware of that fact, because we're going to be dealing with a lot of mental issues and mental health issues revolving around what to do after the death of your family, what to do like when your friends are really sick, how the people feel when they are terminally ill in different ways and stuff like that. So if like any of like sickness, hospitals, the conversations that happen around those areas and those environments are triggering, be aware so you can go into this. I don't want to say too much about this book because I think it's best when this book unfolds before your eyes, of you just seeing through Andrew's eyes and you see like the way that he is handling the situation, which isn't the healthiest and isn't the best way that you could possibly do it. I don't want to say it's a plot twist because a lot of it is kind of mentioned in the synopsis, like how he's in the hospital, why he's in the hospital, stuff like that. But I think it's best to kind of go in this book with a blank slate. So I don't want to like hint away too much because I want you to go in and just let it unfold before your eyes. But I think this book is a strong 4 stars, if anything. Sean David Hutcherson always has a great way of writing a book and dealing with mental health issues that just seems believable and realistic, and like you can actually imagine meeting these people one day. I do think that there are times where Andrew is a little bit, I guess, dramatic and kind of, you're kind of like, would a real human deal with that way? But again, because it is dealing with like him going through this horrible time, it's believable because you don't know how anyone would ever act in that situation because everyone's gonna react differently. There is another character, there is like a kind of queer relationship between 2 men in this, Andrew Bradley and this other teenage kid that ends up in the hospital for getting his body set on fire. So it does deal with queerness, with queer topics, as well as like how one handles when your environment isn't catering to you at all and is very hostile to you as a person. I think this book was a very strong 4 stars up until the very end, and after like the break at the end where Andrew finally confronted the fact that he isn't healthy and that he needs a lot of help and that his mental health is breaking down and isn't doing really good, it bumps itself up to a 5 star. So this is a 5-star book, but I think through the great majority of it, it's good but not great, and then with the last chunk of it, it just kind of just breaks Andrew down into pieces and then like just gives him the possibility to build himself back up, and that's what made it a 5-star book for me. Another thing about this book is that it does have comic pages in it. These comics are by Andrew Bradley himself. It's just a comic that he made up, and the comic in its way connects to the story, so they're not just random inclusions. They're not just like randomly placed just so that we can see what Andrew does in his free time. While the comics, you might have a hard time understanding what they're about because they are kind of vague and ambiguous and kind of abstract. When you take into account when these comics come and how they refer to the story, you can see the parallels between his writing and then what is happening in his life. So I do think that the comics are a good thing, although I don't think everyone's going to enjoy that part because, like I said, they do feel really abstract and confusing and they don't seem beneficial. But if like you take them into account to what's going on in the story and Andrew's life himself, it does end up being really good. Again, I just think it's a really, really good book. Again, it does great with mental health, with hospital issues, with like dealing with horrible shit happening in your life. I do think it has a really good ending. I wouldn't say that this is a romance book, okay? It's not a romance book, although there is like hintings of a romantic relationship and a small one. This is a book about a kid whose mental health is deteriorating due to the fact that he is losing a lot of people in his life, and because of the fact that he can't let them go, nor is he in an environment that is fostering that healthiness because he is currently living in a hospital. And while you would think that would help him, it ends up being counterintuitive because he refuses to deal with his issues while also creating new ones for himself and putting him in an environment where, one, he can't really trust anyone, and two, he is dealing with more people that he has the potential of losing, and also listening to their issues with their own problems. Because while he is the main character, we do meet a few other characters and they talk about what they're going through and stuff like that. So there's just a lot culminating. So it's about mental health and hospitals and stuff like that more than any romance or magic or anything like that. Now, for the final point, how Sean David Hutcherson books work together. So, Sean David Hutcherson, his line of books, I've read all of them except his first two. I haven't read those ones yet. And then, of course, the newest one that's going to come out in February. But all of his books exist in the same universe. So, Apocalypse of Elena Mendoza, We Are the Ants, and At the Edge of the Universe, for sure, connect with this book. This book does not play a bigger role in the connection and seeing the overall conspiracy of it, but this book is mentioned in those books. So if you read this book and later decide to read more of his, you're going to see familiar characters from this, because I know that I think at the Edge of the Universe they mention a boy who lived in a hospital. In Apocalypse of Elena Mendoza, they mentioned this kid's comic. So this does connect to the other two books, and you can see little bits and pieces of them and their connection, even though this doesn't play a big role in the whole apocalypse universe that sort of exists. And We Are the Ants, Apocalypse of Elena Mendoza, and At the Edge of the Universe. So I did like it. I thought it was good. I think it's a good book. I think Sean is just a great author, and you should all read him, especially if you want queer books that deal with mental health issues. It's just good times. Well, I don't want to say it's a good time because this wasn't like a happy book, but it definitely had charm and was emotionally taxing in a good way. Yeah. So if you like what you're seeing here and you want to continue seeing more, click all those buttons down below, and goodbye, Internet.